All right. So thank you all so much for joining us today for the National Environmental Public Health Internship Program informational session for students. So on behalf of the National Environmental Health Association, I want to say thank you, and we're excited that you would like to learn more about the program and the possibility of becoming a NEPHIP intern. So my name is Adrienne Gothard. I am a senior project coordinator at NEHA, and I work primarily with the NEPHIP internship. I'm joined today by my colleague, Reem Tark, who is also a senior project coordinator for NEHA. So we're happy that you're all with us. So we're excited today to be able to share information about the NEPHIP program, including the benefits of participating, details for applications, and of course to answer any questions. So Reem is going to monitor the Q&A in the chat during the presentation. So feel free to ask any questions as we go, or you can save them until the end where we will have ample time for discussion and questions. So before we jump into things, I wanted to do a quick poll to see who we have joining us today. So I'm hoping this will work. All right, so this poll is just going to ask you the option that best describes you, where you are currently in your academic studies. So I'll give everyone just a few more seconds to do this. All right. Very cool. So it looks like we have a couple undergraduate sophomores, several undergraduate juniors, and then a couple of grad students and some program faculty. And awesome. If you want to let us know what your role is in the chat, that would be great. But this is very helpful. Thank you, everyone. Kind of just helps us to know, who our audience is today. So that's great. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. Okay. So before we jump into information about the NEPHIP program, I wanted to provide a brief introduction to the National Environmental Health Association, or NEHA, for those of you who might not be very familiar with us. So NEHA is a professional society with more than 6,000 members across the nation, and our mission is to build, sustain, and empower an effective environmental health workforce. So if we are able to achieve our mission of building, sustaining, and empowering an effective environmental health workforce, what we will have is one, healthy environments, meaning that we're addressing the health impacts that are caused from environmental health hazards. Next, we'll have protected communities, meaning that we're identifying the stakeholders that are familiar with the challenges of communities and working to help solve those challenges. And finally, empowered professionals, meaning that we have a diverse group of educated and experienced professionals in the workforce. So this vision reflects our ultimate goal of a valued and empowered environmental health workforce, working their magic within their communities to ensure healthy and safe environments for all. So with our NEPHIP program, we have three important partners. The first is our funding entity and primary partner, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's Water, Food, and Environmental Health Services branch. Our other partners include the National Environmental Health Science and Protection Accreditation Council, or EHAC. So NEPHIP is offered exclusive enrolled in the environmental health programs that are accredited through EHAC. We also partner with the Association of Environmental Health Academic Programs, or AHAP. So AHAP works to increase the environmental health workforce by promoting and supporting environmental health science degree programs that are accredited by EHAC. And then finally, we have NEHA. So we have been facilitating this program since 2015. So far, we've supported about 195 internship experiences across 110 environmental public health agencies in 38 states and territories. So through this program, NEPHIP interns are able to meet internship or practicum degree requirements, earn credit hours for required coursework, bolster their academic scholarship, and ultimately strengthen their work experience through completing their internship projects. So NEPHIP is a 400-hour paid internship that places environmental health students with host sites at state, tribal, local, and territorial environmental public health agencies. So the internship is designed to allow students to gain a firsthand perspective on the day-to-day responsibilities that environmental health professionals have, to make invaluable connections with those working in the field, and to work on an independent project that's based on the needs of the host program. And ultimately, we want students and NEPHIP graduates to consider careers working in state, tribal, local, or territorial environmental health departments following graduation. So as I mentioned, this is a paid internship experience, with undergraduates receiving $6,000 and graduates receiving $8,000 to cover things like lodging, food, and incidental expenses during the internship. Students who relocate for an in-person internship experience will also be offered an additional need-based relocation allowance starting at $500. And we'll talk a little bit more about internship format here in a few minutes. So how the program works. So as part of the program, we recruit qualified environmental health students, so you all, who are eager to gain field experience, as well as environmental health programs that are interested in hosting environmental health interns. We then match them based on a variety of factors, including the student's experience and interest, and the health department's project portfolio. Additionally, we're prioritizing diversity and geographic representation in the selection process for both students and health departments. So in 2022, the program was revised and expanded, and we're now able to offer many additional benefits and opportunities for students. So these include access to several professional development learning sessions, participation in a series of valuable professional career mentorship sessions with current professionals working in the field, the opportunity to attend NEPHIP's first ever virtual career fair, a one-year NEHA student membership for interns, and registration for the NEHA Annual Education Conference. Alrighty, so the main focus of the internship experience will be an independent project. So this project will focus on solving a current environmental health problem or challenge that's facing the host program. So project topics can vary across all environmental health services and topic areas. So food safety, indoor air quality, emergency management, things like that. So along with your project, we're asking interns and mentors to consider how climate change can impact environmental health as it relates to the independent project, as well as to identify any environmental justice and health equity concerns, again, as they relate to the independent project. So this project can be used to meet your university internship requirements if applicable. It's something that you'll be able to list, on your resume or your portfolio. So we also require that the intern produce a deliverable that's associated with their project. So this is really the natural output of your project. So for example, if you are working with your host site to research a water quality issue that's a burden in a certain community, the deliverable might be a report based on your findings, or a presentation of your recommendations that's based on your research. So again, the deliverable just goes naturally along with what the project is. And we will be giving some examples here in a minute. So we will ask that all interns submit a copy of deliverables to NEHA at the end of the internship. The next one is that we do ask host programs to be able to provide opportunities for student interns to be exposed in various programs, activities, and services that are operated by their department. Really to support your knowledge and exposure to various environmental health services and topic areas. So examples include their work, being able to see their work in climate and health, food safety inspections, on-site water and wastewater programs, vector control programs, emergency preparedness, things like that. So, we ask that you're given the opportunity to shadow with inspectors, have informational meetings with other departments. So the goal is really a well-rounded experience that results in your understanding of the important work that governmental environmental health programs do. So really, when you're thinking about what you'll be doing during the internship, those are kind of the two pieces that you will think of. So one is that independent project that you'll be spending a large amount of your time working on. And two is, those shadowing opportunities in multiple areas. And then finally, we ask that host programs assign a primary mentor to each intern who would be available to assist in mentoring and advising on the independent project and setting up other activities for you throughout the internship period. So I see that Reem is back. I know she was having some power difficulties with some storms in her area. I'm sure that's what happened, but I'm going to pass it over to Reem to share a few examples of past intern projects and deliverables. So Reem has the unique perspective of being a past NEPHIP intern. So she's also going to share a little bit about her experience. So go ahead and take it away, Reem.
Thanks, Adrienne. Hi, everyone. Like Adrienne mentioned, I will be sharing some insights on some of the past interns' independent projects to give you an idea of what you could possibly expect. And just to begin with my own experience, my journey at NEHA started as a NEPHIP intern. I interned at Benton County Health Services in Corvallis, Oregon, back in 2017. And my independent project focused on determining the efficacy of food manager certification at improving food handling practices. And I did that by conducting a literature review and also doing an observational study. The objective of the observational study was to explore the association between the presence of a certified food manager on site and the overall inspection scores of or the number of critical violations at a given food establishment in Benton County. My deliverable was to develop a report on this topic and to share it with the Board of Health at Benton County. Besides my independent project, I also worked on developing a variety of resources. For instance, I got to develop a recreational campground inspection checklist, and I also got to participate in the emergency preparedness team at Benton County Health Services as they prepared for an influx of about 100,000 people coming into the county for the total solar eclipse event back in 2017. Moving on, we had one of our previous interns from 2017 match with the Tennessee Department of Health. Her project for the internship was to develop an online survey that gathered feedback from local foodborne outbreak investigators about the CDC's National Environmental Assessment Reporting System, also called NEARS. The goal of the survey was to assess knowledge gaps, identify training needs, and understand the perceptions of the tool. She also assisted in conducting an investigation of a possible foodborne disease outbreak. She tested drinking water facilities and private spring water for potentially harmful algal blooms. She shadowed on pool inspections with the county health department and even got to observe a consultation for a tattoo parlor. Towards the end of her internship, she said that with the various fieldwork experience that she had, she could see herself working at either a local or a state health department. Another past intern matched with the public health preparedness team within the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control. His independent project was to create an evaluation for emergency medical needs shelters. He designed a strategic evaluation system for shelter sites with respect to both health equity and shelter operational factors. The goal of his project was to help public health officials decide which medical needs shelters to activate when a disaster strikes. And his project deliverables were the evaluation tool itself, as well as developing a report outlining detailed instructions on how to use the tool. Another virtual project coming from an intern who participated this past summer with the Denver Department of Public Health and Environment. This person's project was to compare food safety violations and enteric disease cases with socioeconomic variables like race and education using ArcGIS. The goal was to further understand and identify potential food safety burdens or disparities, experiences across various different neighborhoods in Denver. And their final deliverable for the project was to conduct a presentation of the maps and data collected from literature review to a group of 45 public health professionals within the department. The picture that you see on the slide up there of the map comes from that presentation. The team at this particular health department took a unique approach to creating a well-rounded experience for all the virtual interns that they work with. What they did was they had multiple departments present to them about what they do for the city, which allowed the interns a chance to explore topics that they were passionate about. And the last example that I want to include is coming from an intern who worked with us this past fall, at the New Orleans Health Department. Her mentor was a climate and health officer within the department, and this intern's independent project was to research how communities of color are disproportionately affected by climate change when they live in close proximity to pollution sources. This work resulted in her deliverable of creating a story map of case study from a New Orleans neighborhood that will eventually be published on the department's website. And on the NEPHIP website, we do have a document that's titled Project Guidance, which you can also refer to get some more additional ideas. For now, what I am going to do is go ahead and drop a link in the chat to that Project Guidance document that I referred to. And with that, Adrian, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thank you so much, Rhea. All right, so now I'd like to talk a little bit about application requirements. So the first requirement is that student applicants must attend an environmental health academic program that is accredited by the National Environmental Health Science and Protection Accreditation Council, or EHAC, as I mentioned earlier. So to find out if you attend a qualifying program, on the NEPHIP for Students page on NEHA's website, there are links to a list of graduate and undergraduate programs. And the application also has a list of universities and programs for you to select before you can move on in that online application. So as you're looking at those, please ensure that you are selecting the correct university and program, since several universities have both an undergraduate and a graduate degree program. On that note, the program is open to graduate students and undergraduate sophomores, juniors, and seniors who have completed at least 1 year of coursework. And students must be enrolled during the internship. So for example, you wouldn't be able to participate in the summer internship if you had graduated in the spring. I know that some of you may be international students, excuse me. So just know that you are eligible for NEPHIP, but we do ask a question on the application so that we're aware if you are an international student, just so we can help to avoid any delays when it comes to additional steps that you might need to take. So for example, we require a background check to be completed for all interns. And that process requires the student to have a social security number. So we would just want to work with our international students to make sure that we have all of those things in place so that there are no delays. Alrighty, along with the online application, you will need to be prepared to submit some supplemental materials. These include a current resume, a current unofficial transcript, and a letter of recommendation from a member of your program faculty. So you can find a copy of the recommendation form on the NEPHIP website, and it's also linked in the actual application. I'm sure this won't come as a surprise, but you will be asked to answer some essay questions. So these will be things like, how do your personal and professional interests align with the purpose and mission of a local, state, territorial, or tribal health department? You'll be asked to describe your interests in topics like sustainability, climate and health, environmental justice, and health disparities. You will also be asked to speak to why you would be a good fit for the NEPHIP internship, as well as how your own diverse background and experiences would positively contribute to the NEPHIP program. On the application, we do ask several questions about the internship format. So just a quick note on that. NEPHIP has been able to expand recently to provide 50 internships per year between 3 sessions in fall, spring, and summer. So we're finding that the fall and spring internships may be better suited for graduate students who have a little bit more flexibility in their schedules, while the summer may be the best time for undergraduates to complete their internships. That being said, you know, undergraduates and graduates are able to apply for all 3 sessions. In response to the COVID-19 pandemic, NEPHIP introduced a virtual format in 2020. So several years we had strictly virtual interns. However, we're now back to being able to offer fully in-person and hybrid internship formats as well. Hybrid being a mixture of partially in-person and partially virtual. So for the summer sessions, in-person internship formats are preferred. This is because we want to be able to give you a hands-on experience that will help you to better understand the work of governmental environmental health agencies. Additionally, many of the programs that apply to be host sites indicate that their projects are going to require an intern to be in person to complete the work. So we will have a limited number of host sites that are able to support virtual or hybrid internship experiences, but I just want to emphasize that for the summer, the majority of the available internship positions will be in person, whether you're relocating to be in person or in person local to you. So while we understand that some folks may have extenuating circumstances that limit them from being able to relocate for an in-person internship, just know that those virtual positions will be limited, but we do ask questions on the application to kind of gain that information from you about what you're able to do. And then so last summer, I'll just give you an example. The internships were mostly still virtual because of the pandemic. But we heard from many of our virtual interns that they wished that it was in person because they wanted to be able to interact with their mentors and their teams. You know, they were getting to know them virtually, but they wanted to have that in-person interaction. And they wanted to physically participate in and experience the day-to-day work of the program. So a lot of them got to shadow things like food safety inspections or pool inspections, campsite inspections, but you know, it's a different experience when you're there in person. So that was some of the feedback that we got from those virtual interns is they wished they were in person. So just remember, this is a paid internship that also, you know, offers that additional relocation allowance. So this is a really cool opportunity to spend 10 weeks, potentially in a place that you've never been before, to get a really great hands-on experience from your host site. So you can access the student application and all of the supplemental materials on the NEPHIP website. Okay, so now I'd like to take a few minutes just to talk about the ways that you can really make your application stand out. So first and foremost, please make sure that you carefully review the program requirements and details that are provided on the NEPHIP website. We want to make sure that you fully understand how the program works before you apply. So for example, if in one of your essay questions you described how excited you are to be an intern with NEHA, this might make us question if you understand that while NEHA facilitates the internship, your day-to-day internship experiences will be with the state, local, tribal, or territorial environmental health program that you're matched with. And just remember that you can always email us at nephip@neha.org if you have any questions before applying. Along those same lines, it's really important that you read the application instructions and questions carefully to make sure that you're providing the information that's asked for. So the application is in a Microsoft form to make it a little bit easier for you, although this means that unfortunately you won't be able to save it to return to it. So I would recommend setting aside at least an hour to ensure that you don't feel rushed while completing the application. As I mentioned on the last slide, you will be required to submit some supplemental materials. So for the resume, Make sure that you're showcasing all of your relevant work experience, academic coursework, volunteer work, and environmental health related skills. So if you've taken any certifications or if you have experience with things like ArcGIS, those are all going to be things that you want to list on your resume, as these things can really help to set you apart from other applicants. Excuse me. So it's not necessary to have a fancy resume template, but I would say make sure that you have correct grammar, spelling, formatting, all of those things on your resume, because that really does go a long way. I would recommend converting your resume into a PDF to make it appear more professional as well. We did have a professional development workshop during NEHA's annual education conference last summer, where we learned about creating an effective resume from a career services professional. This recording is available on NEHA's YouTube page, so I would strongly recommend that you use this resource or other resources. There are a plethora of resources on the internet for creating strong resumes. You could also tap into the Career Services Center at your own university to help you strengthen your resume. That's one of the reasons they're there, is to help with things like that. So, a really solid resume can really help to set you apart. All right, for the transcript, an unofficial transcript is totally acceptable. And in fact, that's all we require. You do not need to get an official transcript. But please do make sure that you're downloading it to send it in to us. Please don't send screenshots of the university website or copy the information into a Word document. We would like to see it downloaded and submitted as it is on the website. And then the letter of recommendation. So please make sure that you ask a faculty member of your program to submit the letter of recommendation on your behalf. This is the most commonly missed item when we're collecting applications. So even though they are sending the recommendation form or letter directly to us, it's still ultimately your responsibility to ensure that it's received to complete your application. So I would recommend, after you request it, potentially following up to ensure that that has been sent in. And then finally, another thing that really can set you apart as a candidate is the way that you communicate via email. So just remember that there is a person on the other side of that email. And while this isn't included in our scoring application, you want to make sure that you're leaving a positive impression. So applying for an internship is just like applying for a job. So I can guess that you probably wouldn't send in a resume to a potential employer with strictly the subject line saying stuff and just attach the resume. You're going to have like a nice subject line that says, supplemental materials for application. And then in the body, it doesn't have to be anything eloquent or long. Something as simple as, please find attached my resume and unofficial transcript for the NEPHIP Summer 2023 application. Sincerely, and then your name. Something as easy as that, goes a long way. Okay, so specifics for this summer. So we're currently in the process of recruiting for the Summer 2023 session. Student applications opened on January 9th and will close on Wednesday, February 1st. So please note that this is the date by which we will need to receive your online application and all supplemental materials via email. So the resume, transcript, and letter of recommendation. So if you have not yet requested a letter of recommendation, that should be the first thing that you should do to make sure that they have enough time to get it submitted by the deadline. That being said, I don't want this to be a deterrent to keep you from applying, because I know some of you probably just got back into classes for the spring. So, if there are extenuating circumstances, please email us and don't let that be a deterrent from applying, because we would love to see you apply for the summer. Then the selection and matching process will take place in February and March, and notifications for the selected summer 2023 students will be sent out by the end of March. So that's when you can expect to hear back from us. If and when you are notified of your acceptance, you will be provided with the location of your matched host program, as well as a brief description of their proposed project. We'll then ask you to confirm your intent to participate within 1 week of receiving the acceptance. And some notes about the dates. So summer internships will be 10 consecutive weeks, starting anytime after May 22nd and wrapping up by the 1st of September at the latest. So we know that some of your programs run on quarters instead of semesters. So even if you started the internship experience in mid to late June, this would still allow you to complete the 10-week internship by September. So for example, if you decided to start your internship experience on May 22nd, 10 weeks later would have you finishing by July 28th. If you didn't start until June 26th, 10 weeks later would be September 1st. So there is some flexibility for you based on your school schedule, potential summer schedule, and your host program schedule as well. So as a reminder, this is a 400-hour internship. So during your 10 weeks, you'll be working full-time or 40 hours a week. Quick note on that, all of the internship arrangements, so things like your start date, end date, your daily work schedule, those are all going to be determined between you and the host program. So if you do have a couple days in the middle of the summer that you are needing to take off, that's not going to be a problem. You'll just want to talk to your host mentor about that. Now, if you do know that you're going to be on vacation for the entire month of June, that would likely be something that would limit you from being able to participate in the internship for the summer, because remember, this is a 400-hour program over 10 weeks. All right, so what to expect if you are selected to participate. So once accepted students and host sites confirm their intent to participate for the summer 2023 session, you'll be introduced to your mentor via email. And at that time, host sites and interns can begin making arrangements. So as I mentioned, when you receive your letter of acceptance, we will be letting you know who you are matched with and the proposed project, so that you have that information before you confirm your intent to participate. So just a note here, we do encourage you, once you are introduced to your match via email, that you go ahead and send them your resume, tell them a little bit about yourself, send over your interests and what you have experience in. So even though the host programs are proposing projects that their department needs to have done and things that they would like an intern to work on, a lot of times we see this kind of morph and evolve as they meet their interns and kind of learn what the students' interests are and what their strengths are. So, the more information that you can provide them, the better. As far as paperwork, so selected students will be asked to fill out an agreement form with NEHA, basically just attesting that you understand the requirements of the program. And then we will be asking you to have your academic advisor fill out an agreement form. So this is especially important if you're seeking academic credit. We just want to make sure that your advisor is aware of the program and that NEPHIP will meet all of those requirements that are needed for that credit. Even if you aren't seeking academic credit with the internship, we do ask that you, let your advisor know that you're participating, just so that they know that that's something that you'll be doing during the summer. Additionally, several universities do have some administrative paperwork that's required for the host site, and vice versa. Sometimes the host programs have some paperwork that will need to be done with the academic institution. So that's just something that we'll ask you to coordinate with your mentor at the start of the internship, or even before that, when you're first matched. You want to make sure that those conversations are being had so that there aren't any delays in starting. And then after that, several weeks before starting the internships, we will be hosting orientations for all participating interns and host sites to go over the details of the program. And then let's talk a little bit about NEHA's involvement. So throughout the internship, NEHA staff is available to help support interns and health programs as needed. So before the internship starts, we'll provide a work plan template. So this can help you and your mentor to identify your project details, deliverables, timelines, as well as any trainings, tools, or resources that you might need for those independent projects. Throughout the internship, we will be sending out short check-in forms weekly to help identify any needs and see how projects are progressing. And then we'll be setting up separate mid-internship meetings with the interns and the mentors to discuss project progress and performance. And then finally, at the conclusion of the internship, the intern, like I mentioned, will be required to submit any deliverables that they completed along with their independent project, and to give a short presentation to NEHA staff to describe their experience, highlight their independent project outcomes, and share what they've learned. Alrighty, so with that, I would like to open it up to questions. Reem, were there any questions that you think we could get started with?
We just had one question come through in the chat box asking about if at what point would the student be considered to qualify for a NEPHIP internship, given if they've completed 6 months of coursework? I did respond to that in the chat. If you have completed about a year's worth of coursework, by the time that you would be beginning the NEPHIP internship, you would qualify for it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Reem.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here's a great question. With the internship being a 40-hour week over 10 weeks, is it feasible to maintain a full-time job along with the internship? That's a great question. So since this is a full-time internship, during those 10 weeks, I would say no, it would not be feasible to maintain a job, especially if you are relocating to the location of your host health department. One thing that we're trying to be very mindful of is, making sure that interns can be successful. So part of that is being realistic about the expectations and the bandwidth that this program will take. So thank you. I appreciate the question. And the question is no, you need to really have those 10 weeks to focus on the internship. Oh, and then a follow-up question for the spring session, is it a 40-hour week over 10 weeks as well? That's a great question. So thank you for asking me to clarify there. So for the summer, the internship program is that 10-week full-time commitment. When we are looking at the fall and the spring sessions, to offer more flexibility, since students are probably going to be doing traditional coursework, that timeline is extended from a 10-week session anywhere up to a 16-week session. So it's still the 400 hours, but it could be spread out over 16 weeks. So that's, approximately a 25-hour per week commitment. So that would allow an intern to still potentially do some coursework. But, we have recently had some interns who tried to do a little bit too much in terms of having classes, the internship, and a job. We want to make sure that we're not taking away from your coursework and that you're, able to, again, be really successful with this internship. So that's something that before the fall and the spring sessions, I would likely be reaching out and saying, hey, you said that you're doing these classes, do you think that you would have the capacity to do this internship as well? So great questions. Thank you. Let's see what else. We've got some more rolling in here. Would it be possible to take summer courses while completing the internship? That's a great question. I think that one would really depend on how many courses you're taking. Is it Perhaps if it's just an 8-week course, that's something that you could do before or after your internship. So you could either start your internship early or start your internship a little bit later into the summer. It would also depend on, is this an in-person class or is it an online class? So if it's an online class and you're still able to, do your internship during the day with your matched host site, that would be fine if you think that you also have the capacity to do the course as well. Great questions. Would location be determined by preference of the type of independent project, or would it be determined by the intern's preferred location? So that's another great question. So on the application, we do ask you to identify your areas of interest in environmental health. So it kind of asks a ranking where you can say, climate and health is my #1 interest and such. We also do ask your preferred location. So all of those things are taken into consideration, but just know that we're looking at a lot of factors. So we're looking also at the applications from the host sites, and they're proposing their project. So a lot of times we'll be reading through a host site's proposed project, and I think, oh, you know what? I read on Bob's application that he had this really great experience. So to answer your question, it's a little bit of both. We're looking at a lot of different factors when we're doing that matching. But that's why we ask those really detailed questions on the application, so that we can get a good sense of what you're hoping to get out of it. And then that's also why we're going to be letting you know about the host site and the proposed project when we do offer you acceptance into the program. One thing that I do ask interns to kind of keep in the back of their mind is that, the host site that you're matched with or the project that they have for you might not be your #1 interest. But we just ask students to keep a really open mind, because you never know what you're going to end up loving. And you never know what kind of experience, you may be exactly looking for. So we just ask that you keep an open mind. And again, it's a 10-week internship. So in the grand scheme of things, not a very long time. And again, I should say for the summer, it's a 10-week internship. And, it could be a really great experience. And given that this is a paid opportunity, that really allows you that flexibility to, be able to relocate or, to be able to make this a great in-person experience. All right. Okay, if we're looking to do stuff with emergency preparedness, which potential projects would you recommend us look at and or apply for? So when it comes to NEPHIP, as I mentioned, on the application, you'll want to, if you're interested in emergency preparedness, you would want to definitely indicate that on your application, and you could tell us why, and you could tell us, what you're looking for. But just note that, matches aren't always strictly based on the intern's interests. All right. What are some skills and characteristics that applicants should emphasize in their resumes and responses to essay questions? This is a really good question. So for your resume, I'll tell you some of the things we're looking for are relevant work experience, relevant volunteer experience. So if you've done internships before, or, if you've done certain class projects, that would be something you could list on your application. Like I mentioned, if you have certifications. So those are all great things for your resumes. And in response to the essay questions, I think we're definitely looking for interns who have a passion for environmental health. We're looking for students that we think would be successful and be able to contribute positively to their matched host program. So really, I would say, be honest, be thoughtful, and just make sure that your application conveys to us who you are, and why you would be a good fit for the program. Reem, I'm going to ask you too, because I know that you also review applications. Is there anything else that you're looking for when you're looking at a resume or essay questions?
Yeah, I think Adrian, you covered a lot of those. I would say just try to highlight any environmental health experience, whether that is experience you might have received through your academic work. That could be, you know, coursework like Adrian mentioned, or any research projects you might have participated in. Do highlight those, or even like professional experience for sure. And yeah, I think you covered it quite well, Adrian. Just, you know, give us a sense of who you are and why you care about environmental health.
Great, thanks, Reem. And then the next question is, who do we contact if we have any questions in the future? So I'm putting our email in here. So it's nephip@neha.org. You're going to likely get one of us. So when I mentioned earlier, just remember there's a person on the other side of that email. Here are the faces of those people. All right. Do we choose our program, or is it assigned to us with the host site we're paired with? That's a great question. So yes, as I mentioned, we receive applications from students, and then we receive applications from host sites, and then we select the students and host sites and we match them. So you would not be choosing your program, you would be matched with a program based on all of those factors that I mentioned earlier. Okay. If I already have experience working on independent projects, should we emphasize that project in the essay, even if the interest has nothing to do with that project?
I can take a stab at that.
Yeah, okay.
I would say sure, as long as it's relevant to environmental health, because it shows us sort of the scale of your capabilities and your skill set. So I would describe it if I was applying for an internship such as NEPHIP, but also mention, because we specifically ask about your interest on the application, do highlight those as well. Yeah. Awesome.
Okay, let's see. There's nothing new in the chat. Anything new in the Q&A, Reem?
Sorry,
Okay.
I don't see any questions in the Q&A box.
Awesome, thank you. All right. Well, I think that is all we have for today. So just to let you all know, I will be sending out an email with the recording of this session so you can refer back to it if you need to, as well as a survey if you wouldn't mind giving us feedback on the session. And then, of course, that way you'll also have the NEPHIP email that you can let us know if you have questions. So I think Reem and I are probably going to stay on for a few more minutes if anyone wants to ask us any specific questions, but otherwise we will let you all go. So thank you all so much for attending today. We appreciate you. And we hope to see your names come through on applications.